So President Trump just came up with the solution to make housing more affordable, which is to stretch the standard 30-year mortgage to 50 years.
Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor.
And here's what's crazy. The NAR just released new data that shows the median age of all home buyers is now 59 years old, which means by the time you pay off your house, you'll be almost 110. Let's hope AI gets us there, because by stretching it to 50 years instead of 30, they're promising that this is gonna make our monthly payments smaller. And the truth is, yes, you will save a couple $100s each month, but the reality is you'll save only about 10% a month, but you'll end up paying almost twice as much in interest, and you'll most likely be staying in debt way past retirement. And that's if you ever pay it off at all. Now, even though that's the case, if you're someone who is a savvy investor and you understand the concept of the time value of money, which I'm gonna show you, a 50-year mortgage can actually work out in your favor. And in today's video, I wanted to look at this as objectively as possible and show you what the math says is the real truth. And I also want to look at who this really benefits and who this makes sense for. The truth actually surprised me. So with that said, let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the 50-year mortgage. So here's something that's really interesting I didn't know about until I was making this video. I thought that the 30-year mortgages were always the standard, but they didn't become the standard until after the Great Depression. Now, before the Great Depression, home loans were only given for 5 to 15 years, with huge balloon payments at the end of them, which meant home ownership was mostly for people that were very wealthy or really financially savvy. But when the housing market then collapsed, which happened in the 1930s, the government created something called the New Deal. That's when they created the federal programs we know today. Programs like the Home Owners Loan Corporation and the FHA, so that they could make those longer-term fixed-rate mortgages possible. Okay, but now fast forward to the modern times, and things obviously look a lot different today because the price of real estate is almost at a record high, and interest rates are also considered to be relatively high. And that means, for a lot of people, even a 30-year mortgage doesn't make sense to buy a house right now. So this is where the Trump administration's like, I've got an idea. If we can't make housing cheaper, and the Fed doesn't want to lower the cost to borrow money, aka the interest rate, because it's too afraid that it could spark inflation, then we could always adjust how long people borrow money for. So they're like, 50-year mortgage, right? Now, a 50-year mortgage definitely lowers the monthly payment. But let's take a look at that. Let's say you want to buy the average house here in the United States, which right now is somewhere around the $400,000 price point. Now, at today's rates, you're probably looking at something like a 6.5% interest rate to borrow that money for 30 years. But you're also financially savvy enough to avoid the principal mortgage insurance, or the PMI, which means you're putting 20% down, $80,000, so you are financing or borrowing whatever's left. In this case, $320,000. Okay, so you borrow $320K at 6.5% for 30 years. Your monthly payment would come out to about $2,022. Okay, but now let's assume you also had the option to buy that same house, but using the new 50-year mortgage. Well, in that case, your monthly payment would drop to about $1,800. That's a savings of about 10.8%. Let's say 11%. So you're saving roughly $220 a month, which is nice. That's an extra $2,600 in your pocket every year. But here's the catch. On the 50-year loan, you would pay $1,082,000 over the life of the loan. That is more than $354,000 extra than the 30-year option, just in interest. This is money that's just burned. It's going to the bank over the 50-year span. The question is, would you be willing to pay that extra to the bank just to save a couple hundred extra dollars? I would hope most people would say no. But hold on, let's do something even more fun. I like to think that if I was a 5-year-old who was interested in this nerdy kind of videos, I would ask, hold on, if a 50-year mortgage makes my monthly payment cheaper, why not try a 100-year mortgage? So this is the best way to understand this whole thing. So the next time you're having a debate or you're talking to a friend, try to explain it like this. If longer mortgages make monthly payments cheaper, which they do, then why would we stop at 50? Why not do 100? Why not a 500-year mortgage? Why not 1,000 years? Let's say we could live that long, right? AI. And we're able to just pass that debt to our great-great-great-great-grandkids. Okay, let's explore what would really happen if we did that. Because the longer we stretch the loan, the more we make the monthly payment smaller, all the way down to basically nothing. So in theory, that would mean any home becomes affordable, right? Problem solved. If the mortgage payment was only $200 a month, you could afford a $2 million house on an average salary. But here's what would happen in the real world if we actually did that. I'm going to use me as an example. I love Hawaii. I would love to own a house in a place called Lanikai. Those houses cost upwards of $5 million, and I can't afford that on a 30-year mortgage. But on a 100-year mortgage, I could. But so could other people. So here's what would happen. I show up to the open house along with 100 other people like me. And I'm like, well, I could afford that monthly payment. And the other 99 people are like, well, we could too. Give me the house, right? So for me to get that house, I would have to offer more than all those other people. Well, then eventually that $5 million house turns into a $10 million house, a $20 million, a $50 million house. Because once you make borrowing money very long term, home prices would almost instantly adjust upward to match whatever payment people can afford. That's how markets work. If the cost to pay your debt becomes artificially cheap, the price of the thing itself being financed will not stay cheap. It'll get bid up and up and up. That's exactly what happens when interest rates drop, and we've seen this. Asset prices go up, stocks inflate, crypto inflates, houses inflate. So if we went to a 100-year mortgage, houses would not become cheaper. Yes, in monthly terms they would, but very quickly they would become more expensive almost overnight. If you make that monthly number smaller, the market responds by raising the price of the house until the monthly payment returns back to the highest amount that buyers can tolerate. That's what would happen. And that's what's going to happen if the 50-year mortgage option becomes a thing. Prices would adjust upward. So yes, technically, if you look at a 50-year loan, the monthly payment is about 10% cheaper. But if you suddenly gave the entire US market a 10% discount, home prices would just go up by about the same amount, which means that longer mortgages don't solve affordability. All they'll do is inflate the price. They'll also make the banks richer. They'll help people like the investors, the builders, institutions, hedge funds, Blackstone, BlackRock, but it's not really the family signing up for 50 years of interest. But hold on, I just gave you an extreme example just to prove a point, but there is a different way of looking at this where you could actually come out ahead. And before I show you the math on that, I think it's important to understand that credit has a lot to do with your interest rate. And that's why I want to thank today's sponsor, Kickoff, for supporting this video. Kickoff is a credit building tool that helps you build credit safely and easily. There's no credit check, no interest, and no hidden fees, just simple, affordable monthly plans starting at $5 a month. And here's how it works. You sign up in minutes, and when you make on-time payments, Kickoff automatically reports them to all 3 major credit bureaus, helping you build a stronger credit profile over time. It's actually the #1 credit building app on the App Store, and users with credit under 600 who made on-time payments saw an average increase of 25 points in their first month and up to 84 points after their first year. So if your credit is holding you back, or maybe you're trying to buy a house or refinance a loan, Kickoff is the safest and easiest way to start building it today. Right now, my audience gets 80% off their first month, and that's as low as $1 to start. Just go to getkickoff.com/Andrei or click the link in the description down below. Okay, let's do another thought experiment. Here's how you could win by picking the 50-year mortgage. If inflation keeps going up at 2 to 3% per year, which is what it's always done, the value of the dollar then would be worth less in the future. It's what people call the time value of money. It means $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And here's a good example. If I take this $100 bill and I put it into a 4% a year bond in 1 year, my $100 is now guaranteed to be worth $104, which means my $100 bill today is worth the same as $104 a year from now. Now that's a very simple example using bonds. Some people like to use stocks, which is 7 to 10% per year, but you get the idea. Hopefully it makes sense. It means paying off a mortgage in 50 years will not be as bad as it sounds in today's money. Let me use the same example I gave you earlier. Let's say you're financially savvy because you watch finance nerds like me on YouTube, and you're shopping for a house, and you're given the same two options, the 30-year or the 50-year option. Instead of paying the higher monthly payment on the 30-year, you decide to go with the 50-year option, and you reinvest the difference, which remember was about $220 a month, and you put that consistently into the market. You're like, I'm gonna buy this ETF, VOO, every single month no matter what. What would happen then? History shows it should grow anywhere between 8 to 10% per year. But let's be conservative and assume a 7% yearly return on average. Over 50 years, that $219 a month investment would grow to about $1.2 million. You'll end up with more money and you'll have a higher net worth in 50 years by picking that option. Now, just for fun, let's say you're like, I'm crazy though, I'm not gonna buy the VOO ETF, I'm gonna put it into Bitcoin. Now, obviously Bitcoin's returns are all over the place depending on what timeline you're looking at, but let's say that over 50 years, Bitcoin's average would come down to about 12% per year. That means your $219 a month investment over 50 years would grow to about $8.5 million. So if you're disciplined and you invest every month without excuses, and the market performs the same way it always has historically, it means the long-term compounding would outweigh the extra interest you paid by going with the 50-year option. Now that is a very big if, because it assumes you'll stay invested for 50 years without touching that money, and the truth is, most people don't. All right, so here's where I get extra nerdy and put everyone else left to sleep. I left out something really important. On the 50-year mortgage, you're saving about $220-ish a month. If you invested that difference in the market at a 7% a year return, you'd end up with roughly $1.2-ish million. Okay, but remember, on the 30-year mortgage, once the house is paid off, you will have 20 more years worth of mortgage payments you won't have to make because your house is paid off. Well, that's over $2,000 you could be investing every month for an additional 20 years before it's the 50-year mark. That's more fair. That's more apples to apples. So what would that look like? If you took your old mortgage payments of $2,020 a month and invested that for 20 years at the same 7%. Well, you'd end up with around $1,050,000. So purely from a math perspective, actually yes, the 50-year investor still wins by a small amount, which actually surprised me. I thought the 30-year buyer with an additional 20-year investment would come out ahead, but that just goes to show you the magic of investing is not about how much money you invest, it's about how long you invest it for. The only thing I'd say here though is there's a flaw in this assumption because it only works if you invest every single month with machine-like consistency for half a century. No missed payments, no panic selling, no emergencies. You can't start again next month. And I just don't think that's real life. Real life is People get married, they move, they change jobs, they have kids, recessions happen, pandemics happen, life happens, right? And psychologically, I think being mortgage-free is a lot more liberating. When you pay off a house in 30 years, you get that moment when the bank is out of your life and you're debt-free. And from that point on, you're gonna build wealth. With a 50-year mortgage though, you don't get that moment. You're still paying the bank even when you're way past retirement. So yes, even though the numbers on the spreadsheet say a 50-year mortgage actually works better if you treat money like a robot for 50 years straight, but the moment you realize you're a human, it's probably not gonna happen. But all of this math actually even gets blown up anyway, because the moment you introduce the 50-year mortgage, remember, home prices adjust upward. If the monthly payment gets 10% cheaper, the price of the house itself will go up about 10% to compensate. So realistically, the home you're buying with the 50-year mortgage will not be $400,000. It'll be about $440,000, which means the spreadsheet math advantage disappears. So ironically, none of this actually matters because the market prices it all away eventually anyway. So if you made it this far, here's what I think. Both mortgages can make a lot of financial sense for different reasons, and neither one is right or wrong. The 50-year mortgage is just a tool. If you're an absolute machine with your money and you treat investing like it's consistent, it's automatic, and mathematically assuming all else is equal, the 50-year mortgage can work out in your favor. The way really wealthy families think about this is they'll stretch their debt and they'll invest the difference. But for the majority of normal people, life is sloppy, life is chaotic. It's not a spreadsheet, and most people are not going to be investing the difference for 50 years perfectly. So in that case, when accounting for human error, the 30-year mortgage seems like it's the safer bet because there's an actual finish line. You actually get to be debt-free during your lifetime, and then hopefully still have a couple decades left worth of freedom. That feeling of not owing anything to anyone is priceless. I don't think I could put a value on that. It's a peace of mind that's worth so much more than actual money to me. So my strategy is not the most optimal one for maximizing for riches, but regardless of which one you choose, the point I'm trying to make in this video is that neither of these mortgage structures actually solves any real problem. The length of the loan cures the symptom temporarily. The problem is not how long the loan is. If we really want to make houses more affordable, there's much better options to consider. Things like making it easier to build homes, changing zoning so we can create more supply, letting people carry their old interest rate to their next house, like Graham Stephan mentioned, letting people use their rental history as proof they could pay for a mortgage, raising the capital gains exclusion on primary home sales so more people could actually afford to sell their house so that it could free up some inventory, and maybe to some degree limiting home buyers for investors. Now, I don't know what that would look like, but Blackstone and BlackRock buying up single-family homes cannot be good for prices. Those are changes that actually address the cause, not just the symptom. The truth is, if you want homes to become affordable again, we don't need to stretch the debt longer. We just need more homes. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this though. As always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you back here next week. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.